Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jack Rico, and you're listening to Episode 2 of Highly Relevant with Jack Rico. This is the podcast where I interview the people and discuss those moments that are shaping our American and Latino pop culture. In this episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with none other than singer, producer, and host Nick Lachey about headlining this summer's MY2K Tour with 98 Degrees, as well as taking a journey behind the artists and albums that served as the foundation of his musical career, plus how television became an unexpected career changer. I also go toe-to-toe with WWE's SummerSlam event happening this Sunday. My good friend Andrew Goldstein joins me to discuss what fans can expect this weekend and the bigger picture on whether the WWE can continue its ratings dominance in a digital streaming world. And I'll also recap Baz Luhrmann's new multicultural Netflix musical, The Get Down, along with the most relevant entertainment stories of the week, as well as share what I think will be the best animated film at next year's Oscar Awards. Hint, it comes out this weekend. My first guest is Nick Lachey, who is one of the more versatile people in show business. He's the lead singer for 98 Degrees, who has sold over 10 million albums worldwide, an actor who has appeared on film and on the small screen, a producer of hit programs, a host for various popular TV shows, and a savvy business entrepreneur. But what is most admirable about Nick is his longevity in the business. He always seems to take on projects that keep him relevant, fresh, and somehow grounded. Nick, thanks for being on the podcast.
Jack, you are officially hired as my new publicist. That was the most amazing intro I've ever gotten, I think.
Well, dude, I think you deserve it. I mean, you've earned it. One of the things, I've known you for quite some time, and one of the things that has always sort of stuck to me, your biggest quality has been your humility. Where does your ability to stay humble come from? I mean, you're a guy who exudes chivalry, unpretentiousness, and just all-around good ethos.
Well, I mean, first off, thank you. I appreciate that, and appreciate that you recognize that. I mean, I think that, I was raised in the Midwest. I'm from Cincinnati, and I think there's a kind of a different mentality growing up in the Midwest, and no matter what I've been able to do in my career and career accomplishments, I've tried to always remember that. At the end of the day, I'm just a kid from Ohio, and never let any of that stuff get away from me. So it doesn't matter what you do or who you are or how successful you are in life. At the end of the day, we're all people. We're all humans, and we have to always kind of remind ourselves that we're all kind of equal on that level, and you know better or worse than anybody else. So that's just kind of the way I've always tried to look at things.
You and I know each other from VH1 when we did Big Morning Buzz Live. Looking back at it, how would you summarize your time with the show, and do you miss it?
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to step into hosting a live, television program, 5 days a week from Times Square, which is, a really unique and cool opportunity. And I do miss it. It was such a cool experience, and I think what I really miss the most about it is just the chance to get to interview and talk with very interesting people each and every day. I mean, obviously the guests that came on, some I knew, some I didn't, but by the end of the interview, I felt like I knew everybody, and it was just a great experience to get to talk with them, know them, to work with people like yourself, great crew and staff, and so yeah, there's not a day that goes by I don't think, man, that was a great opportunity, and I missed the chance to still do it every day.
You're back together with 98 Degrees on this summer's MY2K Tour, and from all the reviews I've been reading, they've been really good, man. How do you like touring at this stage of your life, now that you're a husband and a father of two? Is it different?
It's very different, yeah. I mean, it was, obviously when you're in your early 20s, touring with the fellas in a boy band, it took on a different kind of identity. But but now at this point in my life with 2 kids and a family, it's about going out and look, don't get me wrong. I love doing the shows. I love touring, but at the same time, the priority of my life now is my family. So it's about balancing the two, and being able to still give my family what they need in terms of my availability and attention and the band the same. So this tour has been great because we've been able to do, kind of a 5-show in a row system. And then, I'm able to go home for a couple of days to the West Coast and see my kids and my wife, and then come back out and do the tour again. So, it's been a good setup and a good system. And the tour itself has been a blast. The fans have been incredible. The shows have been great. I think there's a real kind of nostalgia for the late 90s music when things were a little more simple. I've kind of said this before, after 9/11, everything became so much more serious.
You're
and
right,
for good
man.
reason, but things became, the way we view the world and the way we view life became a lot more complicated. And I think there's a real eagerness to go back to a time when it was just a little more simple and a little cleaner and a little more joyous. And I think the music of the late 90s, the boy bands and all that stuff, kind of represent that. So the crowds have been great, and we're having a great time being a part of it.
You strike me to be a guy who really loves music. I mean, like the process, the business. What was your favorite decade for music, and which artists and albums were the ones that inspired you to believe that you could make a living off of singing?
Man, Jack, you're good at this, man. You're asking good questions. I think for me, it was kind of like the 70s and like, I'm kind of a classic rock guy and whether it be, Zeppelin or the Stones or.
Oh, wow. So you're like a rock heavy guy.
Beatles. I feel like there was a lot of creative license that existed back then that even pop acts, still draw from, to this day. So, I think that was kind of like the sweet spot of music when there was no holds barred. And not that it's not that way now, because I do think more than ever we're seeing people challenge the boundaries and push music in ways that's never been pushed before, which is great. But for me, I think the times that and look, the early '80s, the Michael Jackson era, the Prince era, those were the guys I grew up with.
You have had the good fortune to meet some incredibly talented musicians. I've seen you talk to Taylor Swift. I've seen you talk to John Legend. Out of everybody you've met, Nick, whose talent has been the one that's left a permanent imprint on you?
Man, it's a tough question because to your point, I've had a chance to meet so many great and talented people, but I think the one that from a personal interaction standpoint has left the biggest mark on me is Stevie Wonder. And we had a chance to work with Stevie early in our career on a soundtrack song for the Disney movie Milan. But such a legend of our business, and a chance to work with him and learn from him at an early stage in our career was it's an incredible moment for me in my life, in my career. So if I had to pick one, and it's hard to because there's so many people that I've had a chance to be with and interact with over the years, but Stevie Wonder, to me is one of the all-time legends, and I'll never forget the impact he had on myself and on my group.
I want to go back for a second to your first album. You guys were originally signed by Motown, speaking of Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Did you guys have an understanding of the significance of what that meant at such a young age?
We thought we did. Yeah, it was a big deal for us. It was, to be signed to any label, as a musician,
right.
Was obviously a huge accomplishment, but to be signed to Motown, especially as a white group, was a big deal for us. And we always fashioned ourselves as singers first, and we really took a lot of pride in our harmonies and our musicality. And so to be able to go into the offices of Motown, Records and audition live and sing a cappella live and get signed on the spot, I think for us, we saw that as a real validation in terms of who we are and our talent. So. Motown, what a great legacy and what a great history that the label, has. And we're, so proud and so honored to have, been a small part of that. And the fact that we were a white group on Motown, adds a little bit of a cherry on top. But Motown just as a label in general, what a great, legendary label to be a part of. And as I said, we were honored to have been a part of that.
Outside of Stevie Wonder, any favorite artists or albums that you remember going, oh man, this was the dude that influenced the way I sing, my phrasing, singing love ballads, etc.
Man, Bright Knight. Bright Knight's an amazing artist and one of the great ballad singers of my lifetime. On a different level, Dave Grohl, I think, is one of the most talented people in music. If you think about two of the most successful bands of my lifetime, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, he's been in both. I mean, how many guys can say that? So, look, in Michael Jackson, certainly not the way I sing. I wish I could sing like him, but as a performer and as a human being, we had a chance to be a part of his tribute concert and perform for him.
How did you get a chance to meet him? How was he like?
Yeah, we did. We performed. This was way back in 2001, but we had a chance to perform in Madison Square Garden.
I remember that concert.
Along with Luther Vandross, who again is another one of the all-time greats. And Usher. So it was Usher, Luther, and 90 Degrees, and we performed Man in the Mirror.
A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm started with the man in the mirror.
And it was just a surreal moment. I had a chance to meet him and talk with him briefly. And
what you guys talk about?
Just, hey, he kind of gave me, a little advice. Nice to meet you. You guys are doing great. I mean, it was very brief, but, just the chance to talk with a legend like that was, I saw is lasting.
Let's flash forward a little bit to your discography. Let's talk about your last group album, 2.0, which came out in 2013.
Yep.
Man, I remember that year because it's like every former boy band dropped an album. It was the same year New Kids on the Block dropped 10.
Don't let it go. It's the moment we've been waiting for. Till tomorrow we're invincible.
Backstreet Boys dropped In a World Like This.
Without your lips on mine, no, the sun doesn't shine. And no, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You guys dropped 2.0.
Hey, lady, grab the microphone and say, don't let me fall.
I heard all three albums, and I'm not just saying this, dude, but I always thought that 2.0 was the best album of the three. Did you feel the album was one of your best, and what does that album rank amongst the band's catalog?
We were very, very proud of 2.0. I mean, it's tough to step away from music for the better part of 12, 13, 14 years, and then come back together and do a project. And we took it very seriously. We I thought had some great songs, picked some great songs. But music's changed, and music's taste of music has changed. So you can never necessarily judge your success by how well it sells or doesn't sell. So we were very proud of 2.0. I think as a group collectively, our favorite album is our Christmas album. I think that's the one that I think that has stood the test of time the best, and the one that we collectively are the most proud of. But I think all of our music, they all represent different chapters in our career, and certainly we were different phases of our musical ability and et cetera, but they all hold a special place in our heart in different ways. So Revelation 2, our last album that we did in 2000 before we took a little hiatus there. Very, very proud of that one. I thought we did a great job on that record. So yeah, they all hold special places in our hearts, but I think the Christmas record, for the most part, is the one we're most proud of collectively.
There were three standout songs to me, particularly that I enjoy so much that I just play them when I hear them from 2.0. That's "Lonely," "Impossible Things," and "Can't Get Enough." As soon as you heard them, did you know they were going to be special?
You never know what's going to be special. Honestly, it's weird. Like, there's some songs you hear and you're like, oh, I knew it was a hit the minute I heard it. And then I can give you an example of another song, one of our songs from 90 Degrees and Rising, "Hardest Thing," which is probably our biggest hit, frankly,
right,
in terms of airplay, and it was a song that we didn't even want to record.
You're kidding me.
The label pushed it on us, and we said, yeah, we're not really feeling it. We don't want to record it. And they said, well, you're going to record it anyway. And they basically forced our hand, and thank God they did, because it ended up being a huge hit. So, sometimes you think you have the instincts and you can see what's going to happen, and you're dead wrong. And other times, you just can't see what's coming. So, I will say this about Impossible Things. When we recorded that record, I'll never forget where we recorded, and it was one of those songs where it had a special vibe to it.
I'm gonna march my own parade. I'm gonna bring back yesterday. I'd split atoms if I had, but I don't. So anyway, I'm gonna ride it on the moon. Yeah, this love is like a dream that makes me do impossible things.
There's so much layers behind it, like just melodically, man.
Yeah, it was, I wish I could say I'd written it. Unfortunately, I didn't. But, when you hear a great song, you hear a great song. And that's kind of, as a performer, that's the way I've always tried to look at things. Hey, if I write it, it's icing on the cake. But if I can sing a great song, if I have a chance to sing a great song, man, there's nothing better. So,
what did you think of the lead singers? I mean, being a lead singer, a frontman of a band like you are, what do you think it takes to be a great lead singer of a group?
Well, I mean, I think being a great singer and being a great lead singer of a group are sometimes different. I mean, and someone who's found a way to do both is as a great example is Justin Timberlake. He obviously is an incredible solo artist. He has all the all the skill set to be that. But when you're in a group, you're about it's about being a piece of a puzzle. And there's guys that may sing more lead parts and may at least to the audience stand out more. But it really is about everybody. And if you can't grasp your head, if you can't grasp that concept and wrap your head around that concept, then I think that's ultimately going to be detrimental to the group. So it's about everybody finding their niche and their role and executing that, to perfection. That's kind of what makes the team work, makes the group work. So look, Justin's fantastic. I think he's a great lead singer. New kids, I thought, Jordan and Joey did a great job of splitting stuff. I mean, I'll take you back to New Edition. I mean,
of course.
Let's talk a little Johnny Gill and Rob Tresvant. I mean, so it's there's been some great ones over the years. Certainly you can go all the way back to Jackson 5. Michael was the front man pretty much for the Jackson 5, and certainly went on to have probably the most epic solo career of anyone ever. But it's all about it's about being able to find your role in a specific situation. How you are as a solo artist is not necessarily how you need to be in a group. And, there's only a handful of people I can think of that have been able to do both well.
Why were you guys never 5 members? It seems like that was like the template for a boy band, 5 vocal members.
We never wanted to be a boy band, honestly. We crafted ourselves in the mold of Boys to Men, and they were 4. And so I grew up singing in different groups, whether they were barbershop quartets or doo-wop groups, and it was always 4 members. The 5-member thing was a boy band deal, and honestly, we got caught up in the boy band movement, as it were, and certainly we're thankful for that, because it was a huge career move for us. But we never really thought of ourselves as a boy band. We were a harmony group. We were a harmony vocal group. So you had your bass, your baritone, your first and second tenor, and that was it.
How did you get started in TV? And did you ever think that television was going to be such a successful medium for you, man?
I never did, honestly, Jack. I got started in TV doing the reality show Newlyweds with my ex-wife, and it was that show for us was meant to be a vehicle to promote our records. We both had solo albums that were coming out, and the show was on MTV, and it was supposed to be just a quick 6-episode thing. So we thought, hey, this is a great way to promote our records, and no one, including ourselves, ever saw the success of that show coming. So, but I think what it did for me as a personality was it took me out of, hey, he's one of the guys in the boy band 90 Degrees, and it gave me an identity that transcended that, and it opened up a lot of opportunities for me, in other TV mediums. I think once people see you on TV, then they start to identify you with TV, and so for me it was a great way to kind of branch out and do more stuff in the television world. But honestly, never ever saw career in TV as my end all be all. I was a singer and a performer, and that's kind of where I saw it always being. And then the whole TV opportunity was a welcome surprise, but it was a surprise.
I saw you in the Kelly Ripa show. Is there any interest to be a part of that show?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'd be lying if I said there was no interest. I mean, I adore Kelly. I think she's an amazing talent, amazing human. And I always enjoy being a part of that show. So I've been blessed to have been asked to co-host with her a handful of times. And, if the opportunity to be there permanently ever presented itself, I would be beyond excited for it. But, there's a lot of guys who are saying the same thing I am. So, that's one of those jobs when it opens up. It's like, okay, everyone's gunning for that one. But I'm definitely feel honored to have been asked to be a part of that mix at least.
What's next for Nick Lachey?
You know what? I'm gonna go home and be dad for a little bit. I've been away from the kids, so I'm excited to go home and spend some time with the family and then on to the next project. I think that's the key. I think Whoopi Goldberg is the one I attribute this quote to, but she said, look, just never stop working, always work, find something to do, always work. And one thing leads to another. So whether it's radio or a podcast or hosting TV or another album or a solo album or a group album or who knows what it is, but as long as you're continuing to move forward and create, positive inertia, you're doing the right thing. So not really sure specifically what lies ahead, but I promise you that something lies ahead. We always keep moving forward.
Thanks, Nick, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Jack, thanks for having me, man. Good talking with you.
You can catch Nick Lachey currently on tour with 98 Degrees and the MY2K Tour around the country. Up next, what does Gael Garcia Bernal and Jason Priestley have in common? That and a recap of the most interesting pop culture news stories of the week in a segment I like to call Jacked In, as in plugged in. But I'm using my name? Never mind. Let's go ahead with some movie news headlines. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are re-teaming for a Sherlock Holmes comedy. The Pokemon Company are launching a live-action film franchise based on Detective Pikachu. Future Yankee Hall of Famer Derek Jeter is getting into the movie business. And Gael Garcia Bernal, the symbol of Mexican cinema, and 90210's Jason Priestley are co-starring in a new film together called Zoom, a fast-paced, half-animated, half-live-action, multi-plot comedy that reminds me of Ari Folman's The Congress. From the looks of the trailer, it probed my curiosity. Zoom comes out September 2nd. Changing screens on over to television, Comedy Central's The Larry Wilmore Show just got canceled this week due to poor ratings. USA's hit show Mr. Robot got renewed for season 3. Marvel is expanding to Hulu, E! Cancels the Caitlyn Jenner series, and Catherine Zeta-Jones joins FX's feud with Jessica Lange and Susan Sarandon. If you're interested in knowing what the top 3 tracks in the country are right now, here they are. This Is What You Came For by Calvin Harris featuring Rihanna and written by Taylor Swift. Cold Water by Major Lazer featuring Justin Bieber and M.O. And the number 1 song in America, Cheap Thrills by Sia featuring Sean Paul. In tech news, Gawker was officially sold in an auction to Spanish-language TV giant Univision for $135 million. They seem to be plumbing up for a big IPO sale by adding a plethora of millennial and multicultural digital brands like The Onion, The Root, and the AV Club. Also, Google just released Duo, which looks to challenge Apple's FaceTime feature on the iPhone. I tested it, and I can report it's the real deal. Finally, in Broadway news, Disney and Puerto Rican Broadway icon Lin-Manuel Miranda have a love affair that can't be stopped. Apart from composing music on The Force Awakens, penning all the songs for Moana, and co-starring in the new Mary Poppins Return sequel, Miranda is now teaming with legendary film composer Alan Menken to compose the songs for Disney's live-action reboot of The Little Mermaid. Congrats, Lin, and hope this adventure never ends. Oh, and happy birthday to 4-time Oscar winner and Mexican director Alejandro González Iñárritu, who turned 53 this week. Felicitaciones, caballero. My next guest is Andrew Goldstein. He's a TV writer, producer, podcaster, and former WWE creative team member in 2006. He's also one of the biggest wrestling aficionados I know. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew.
Mr. Rico, thank you so much, sir.
Well, before we begin with SummerSlam this Sunday at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, just want to say congratulations on getting married very soon, buddy.
Thank you. It's like Macho Man and Elizabeth.
I highly doubt it's just like that.
Oh, yeah. October 1st, so we're under 2 months, and I leave for my bachelor party tomorrow in Austin, Texas. So very, very exciting, and I've procrastinated a lot of the details for my own personal needs. So I have about a month and a half to get all my stuff together.
Well, congratulations once again. I also want to talk to you about your podcast. Sorry, I've Been So Busy is the name of the podcast, which you co-host with writer-comedian Matt Goldich.
Goldich and Goldstein. Yeah, man. We went to camp together. We grew up together. We went to camp together. We were NBC pages together. We started doing comedy together. And now he's a writer at Late Night with Seth Meyers, and I'm doing my thing. And we finally got together and did a podcast. We talked to very busy people about what they're busy with, and sometimes it turns out that the people we're talking to are not so busy, and that they're lying to everybody in their lives about how busy they are. So we get to the bottom of all that, and we talk about a lot of minutia, and it's very fun. Sorry, I've Been So Busy. You can find it on iTunes, and subscribe. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. We have really, really, really fun and successful, interesting guests.
I noticed you had some really good ones. I saw you interviewed Michelle Buteau.
Yeah, Chris Regan, former writer of The Daily Show, current writer of Family Guy. We had Neil Brennan, who co-created Chappelle Show. We had Michelle Collins, formerly of The View.
That's right.
And, so really, really good. Judah Friedlander from 30 Rock. So really good, busy, fun, entertaining people. And it's been a real... it's just been so much fun. I'm sure you can agree. Like the podcast, we always joke, like you have to start a podcast to like hang out with your friends. Like we've caught up with so many of our friends just because we're having this podcast. So it's been a really wonderful experience, and I would hope some people give it a shot.
Absolutely. Well, you were a WWE creative team member back in 2006. I always wondered, were you involved in writing storylines at the company, kind of like, Vince Russo did?
Yes, sir. That was my job, man. I got hired because I had MTV on my resume, and they were starting the Diva Search competition. They brought me in to apparently, when I got hired, they said, you'll really focus on the Diva Search and helping us because we have The Miz, and he's going to host it and all that. That lasted for a couple of weeks, and then I was really just thrust right into writing Raw, writing SmackDown, and writing ECW at the time. And then I really honed in, and they put me on the SmackDown creative team, and I really, focused on that as my main duties. But when we were at TV on Mondays and Tuesdays, man, it was all hands on deck. And so I worked on all 3 shows and all kinds of other projects. But yeah, we were writing storylines, we were creating characters. And we were flying on Vince McMahon's private jet from city to city.
Wow.
I drove from town to town with Dusty Rhodes and Paul Heyman and Brother Love and all the sort of former wrestlers that helped us go together backstage. Yeah, Bruce Pritchard. So it was half nightmare, half the biggest dream come true ever.
That's so cool, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about SummerSlam this Sunday. Listen, man, I was at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, and I had not seen wrestling for quite some time. And as soon as I got back into it, I couldn't believe the amount of people that went to WrestleMania. I was like, wrestling is alive, well. But one thing that struck me, man, is I personally, and this is not speaking on behalf of anyone else outside of me, I was disappointed because I really didn't know anyone anymore, man. I had not seen wrestling in several years, and it was enough for me to be completely disconnected with what was going on. And when I tried to look for the stars, the new stars, I really couldn't connect with anyone. And one of the big things that struck me was, how come there are no stars that have the breadth of appeal of the 80s and 90s characters? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a very homogenized product now. And even since WrestleMania, which was just in April, and here we are in August, I mean, the roster has completely turned over, even more so since WrestleMania because of the whole NXT developmental system and the roster split now. They split rosters just recently between Raw and SmackDown. So there's separate wrestlers on Raw, separate wrestlers on SmackDown, and then you have NXT, which is you can watch online on the WWE Network. But I think it has to do with the two things. One is they have a PG rating on the show, and so there's not much room for the creativity that we used to see in the 80s because of the PG product. There's only so much you can do. And they have more hours of TV to produce, but they have less rope to do it with, if that makes sense.
Right.
And the other thing is, it's prime time now. They're prime time TV on Mondays and Tuesdays. And so they really have to have good look, like Vince has a specific picture of what he wants to see. And it's a lot of like model looking, very good looking guys. Whereas, the idea of monster wrestlers has kind of fallen by the wayside. There's no more George the Animal Steel. There's no more, Yokozuna, like the sort of different body types. I mean, there are definitely examples now of people like that, but for the most part, they're like young, athletic, greased up, smart talking. They could as easily be on Suits on USA Network as they are on WWE programming.
Who are the current wrestlers right now that you think are the real deal and that we all should be following?
Well, obviously it starts with Brock Lesnar. He's the crossover star. He's the UFC fighter who's also in the WWE. And he's the guy who's on ESPN a lot. So I would start with Brock, and then you get down. Obviously, John Cena is still there. Randy Orton, The Big Show, Kane. Those are the old guys.
Who are the new
guys?
The
old guys. So the new guys. Seth Rollins is the main guy. He is not champion right now, but he is chasing the title. And Seth is kind of like it looks like he is the guy. He can talk. He can work. He looks like $1 million. And Seth Rollins would be the guy to really watch. And then there's other really fun guys, like Kevin Owens is a really fun guy. He came up from the independent circuit. He is sort of like a Dusty Rhodes type of body, so he doesn't look like everybody else. And he's a really fun guy to latch onto and be excited about. And then obviously Vince's handpicked guy, Roman Reigns.
Oh my God! What a disaster that guy was, man.
He looks like Jason Momoa.
He does. Yeah, like a prettier version of him, actually.
Yeah, he is like a Game of Thrones character come to life in the wrestling world. So those would be my names that I would throw out at you. But look, man, you got to see The Undertaker versus Shane McMahon. You got to see Shane McMahon fly off the cage. I
did. That was an iconic moment for me. And another moment for me that I was very excited for was Roman Reigns. But my brother, what I couldn't believe is the amount of booing that Roman Reigns was having. Physically, this guy looks perfect, like the next generation champion for the WWE and somebody that Vince McMahon and the whole company can back. But then one thing that my brother told me is that the reason they boo him is because the guy has no mic skills whatsoever and no personality. He's all looks and nothing else.
It's a little more complicated than that. The polarizing boos and cheers comes from the fact that he was overtly handpicked by Vince McMahon and sort of quote unquote shoved down the fans' throats, as opposed to organically sort of rising to the top spot the way, The Rock did. Look, if you go back to in The Rock's career, he started as a heel, as a bad guy, and the fans chose to turn him into this crowd-pleasing, white meat babyface. With Roman Reigns, they just saw what he looked like, and they said, this is the guy, he's our next Cena, he's our next Rock, and they just they skipped steps. If I can simplify it, the best way to simplify it is WWE skipped about 5 or 6 major steps in the progression of Roman Reigns, and they just threw him at us as a babyface that we were supposed to get behind and believe in. without really explaining to us what he's all about, who he is, making us care about him. And I think that's where a lot of the boos come in, whereas Daniel Bryan, the whole Yes movement, that guy, the fans, that was a grassroots, the fans believed in him, the fans got behind him, regardless of what the office was doing. The fans made that guy get his push to the top spot. Roman Reigns was just given the top spot. Now look, he earns it in the ring. He's really, really become fantastic in the ring, and he's getting better on the mic, and obviously his look is, A+. So I think he's getting there, but to simplify it, I would just say that WWE skipped a bunch of steps in his evolution.
The Roman will obviously be at SummerSlam. He's going to go against Rusev for the title. I think he's going to lose, simply because, from what I understand, Roman Reigns didn't pass the wellness policy, and that's a drugging policy, probably PEDs or something like that, which Alberto Del Rio also was involved in.
Yeah, breaking news just today. Alberto Del Rio got clipped. And so now, look, I don't want to say the word steroids, but it's some sort of drug policy that they failed, whatever that may be, is now starting to become a bit of a black eye in wrestling and a lot of these stars. But what is the most important match at SummerSlam this Sunday, and why the hell should we care about this event? Well, I mean, if you're outside of the wrestling bubble, if you don't watch every week, Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar is a match 15 years in the making. These two dudes were in the minor leagues together. They were in the WWE developmental system in the same class together. It was John Cena, Dave Bautista, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton. And throughout this whole 15 years, everybody has wrestled each other, but Brock and Randy have not wrestled in a big-time program, in a big-time...
Since 2002, right, where Brock beat Randy.
They wrestled sort of, because there was a million matches every week, but not in, like, the showcase that they have right now. And so this match truly is 15 years in the making, and I applaud WWE for actually telling us that story. They cut a tremendous history package on these two guys and their history. And so for me, that's the kind of, like, old-school flavor that I like in wrestling. I like when it's presented as real competition. So that's the match I'm most looking forward to. But then if you look at the titles, again, with the brand split, you have two major title matches with, Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler finally getting a shot. He's sort of like your Shawn Michaels type of character, but the WWE has never really put the ball in his court, even though he kind of looks like he has all the tools. And then on the other side, you have Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Finn Balor is the new sensation coming up from NXT. He's an international star. He was a huge star in Japan, and they just brought him up to the main roster. And those two are wrestling in a match to determine who's going to be the first ever WWE Universal Champion. This is a new title that they've just created because of the brand split. That title will live on the Raw brand. And so there's two big title matches. And that you'd say the top of the card, those two matches, and Brock versus Randy is the reason why you're buying SummerSlam or going to the event.
Last couple of questions, Andrew. How are the Raw and SmackDown TV shows doing right now?
Look, it's interesting. Monday Night Raw in the heyday of the Attitude Era was getting sixes. They've lost more than half of their audience. They get below a 3 now. Sometimes they get below, it's the dog days of summer. Sometimes they dip in the mid 2s below a 2. But to them and to USA, that's still really great in today's current TV landscape. Obviously there's infinitely more choices for what you could watch on a Monday night. Everything is a la carte now. So Raw, I think, still is the lifeblood of the USA Network. And, if you just look in a vacuum, Raw is doing fantastic. But if you compare it to what it was doing in the 90s, it lost more than half of its audience. SmackDown has been on Thursdays, then it was on Tuesdays, then it was moved back to Thursdays. Now it's back on Tuesday. Now it's on Tuesday, and it's live for the first time.
Jeez.
So I haven't really looked at the numbers of how SmackDown Live is doing. I think they've made some format changes and some technical set changes and some new camera angles, and There's a lot of new talent on that show, so it's a really fun, fresh show to watch. But I'm always loyal to the SmackDown brand because that's what I wrote on, and so
Right.
I'm a big supporter of SmackDown Live on Tuesdays. But I haven't looked at the numbers the way the way you do.
You know, because of that loss of viewership, I mean, it's happening all over the place and on television. The WWE launched a streaming service about 2 years ago called the WWE Network. How has that been going, and do you think they'll eventually suspend all the TV shows and pass them over to the streaming service?
It was bumpy in the beginning, but their subscriptions are they've hit their goals, and they got in the millions of subscribers now, and they have original program. They're rolling out original programming around sort of their archival things, and their live, their Raw, their pay-per-views that air on the networks as well. They have original programs. They have a reality show with Mick Foley's family called Holy Foley. They have a prank show called Swerve. They have a
So you like it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish I had more time in my life to devote to watching the WWE, the stuff on the WWE Network. So, look, if you're an old school fan, you can literally call up any match that you could remember, and it's probably going to be on the WWE Network because they own so many of the tape libraries from all the old promotions. So, from an archival standpoint, it's amazing. And then, obviously, original programming, all of the monthly pay-per-views are on it, which has sort of rendered their pay-per-view revenue stream kind of null and void. So that's where I think the future is a little murky, because it used to be the TV was the point of the TV was to promote the pay-per-views. Now they're still called pay-per-views and they still are offered on cable pay-per-view. But if you're a subscriber to the network, you get them for $9.99. You get all of the pay-per-views in WrestleMania for $9.99 a month.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like
their subscribers are going up.
Yeah.
It's a huge revenue stream, obviously, but I don't think Raw and SmackDown will. I don't think they'll ever give up on terrestrial TV.
Andrew, thanks for the insight, buddy. You can catch Andrew Goldstein on his weekly podcast, Sorry I've Been So Busy, on iTunes, and follow him on Twitter at Angie Gold. That's ANGEGOLD.
Thank you, sir. Let's talk WrestleMania.
Coming up, my movie pick of the week, and is Baz Luhrmann's new multicultural Netflix show, The Get Down, worth the watch? What is usually considered a yawner of a month for movies, August has quietly become fertile ground for award season films. Apart from Oscar-worthy releases such as Florence Foster Jenkins, Sausage Party, and the highly acclaimed Hell or High Water, August has now also given us an astounding gem with KUBO and the Two Strings.
My name is KUBO.
Released this weekend next to several other movies such as War Dogs with Jonah Hill and Miles Teller, the disastrous Ben-Hur remake, Natalie Portman's A Tale of Love and Darkness, which she wrote, directed, and stars in, and Daniel Radcliffe's, yes, that same Daniel Radcliffe, he has a thriller called Imperium. KUBO and the Two Strings is unequivocally my pick of the week. This epic Japanese-inspired 3D stop-motion animation is, in my mind, the best animated movie of 2016. It's an action-adventure samurai film full of heart, warmth, dramatic realism, and artistic taste. I love this film, and I rarely say that about any movie. I have never seen a film quite like this. From the pulchritude of the visuals, to the painstaking detail given to the characters, to the dramatic arc our young hero experiences, KUBO is a special film. It's the first time I have seen animated characters truly act. The level of craftsmanship here is indelible, and you'd be remiss if you don't go see it as soon as possible. Your kids will love it, you will love it, and you'll be a better person after seeing it. It's time to talk Netflix's The Get Down, a Black and Latino music-driven drama show from visual director Baz Luhrmann, which tells the story of the birth of hip-hop.
Let's take a trip back in the time, 1977, it was maximum crime.
This 6-episode saga has some bumps in the road, but overall, this New York City story is really about how the less fortunate can showcase, through their talents, that dreams aren't just images in our heads. it can lead to changing the world forever. The fact that it has a young and diverse cast, which includes Jaden Smith and Daveed Diggs from Hamilton, is already a plus. But the music here is the driving force. With Grandmaster Flash and Nas serving as producers, hip-hop and music fans alike are sure to find a backbeat of memories and enjoyment.
Oh, you hear that? That is life and destiny. That is the Get Down.
That's it for this second episode of Highly Relevant. I want to thank my good friends Nick Lachey and Andrew Goldstein for joining me on the show this week, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions on how I can improve the show, please email us at highlyrelevant@showbizcafe.com. That's highlyrelevant@showbizcafe.com. Also, if you like the podcast, please subscribe, rate it, and leave a review. It really helps the show reach a wider audience. See you again next Friday on Highly Relevant.
Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.